So we're joined now by such an inspiration, Zach from Sugar and Swag Life, and we're also joined by his mum, Noelle. They're both a duo, and I think the duo goes quite well. And they contacted me over on Instagram on a post that I posted out there, and who wants to get involved in a show. And Zach and Noelle messaged back, and they was very, very positive, and we're so lucky to have you. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a type 1 diabetic, and I was diagnosed June 4th, 2020. And ever since then, I've had to, I guess, be a little more strictly about everything that I'm doing. And
Speaking of, beeps coming from the blood sugar from the pump. But yeah, so he's 10 years old, and so he was diagnosed right after his 10th birthday. So it's obviously a shock to all of us, but in that time, he still has been now since COVID, started back in full-time school and being there in school and still just trying to live his life and do everything like he did before, if not more. So excuse the beeps.
Yeah, right. And what was your life like before being type 1 diabetic?
well, I really didn't think type 1 diabetes was like a thing. I didn't even know anything about it. I didn't even know it was like a real, I guess, thing in this world. But I didn't really have to worry about anything before I got diagnosed. It was all just, oh, let me just take some ice cream out of the fridge and start eating.
And what kind of things would you say has changed in being type 1 diabetic from what you did before? So like sport activities, stuff like that?
So I'm still doing the same sports I have been, but of course I have to manage and track my blood sugar so I don't go low or high. But I've been doing the same things I have been doing before I've been diagnosed, but I just have to keep track of my blood sugar.
And do you find that a challenge, being type 1 and trying to keep managing your blood sugars on a daily basis?
Well, I think it's a challenge because sometimes, let's just say I'm doing homework for my school and all of a sudden I'm at 68. So then I have to stop entirely what I'm doing and I have to focus on my blood sugar.
And at school for him too. I mean, in the middle of class or test, or when they're doing something, like if his blood is going low or high, I mean, it just completely, he has to stop what he's doing, go to the nurse. I mean, it definitely has put a little ding in his day, but he's gotten used to it. Actually, at school, the first day that they were all there themselves, he got up in front of the entire class and he made a little presentation about, this is type 1 diabetes, here's what it is when you hear my phone or something beeping, so that everyone knew what it was, so that he would feel comfortable. I was so proud of him for getting up and speaking to everyone and doing that. But now the whole class knows what's going on and knows what to expect. And you're even telling them if they hear it beep and you don't, to tell you or something, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the whole class is involved.
Well, with my diagnosis at 18-month-old, I've never had an insulin pump. So mine was always daily injections. And I was saying to Ricky before that, I've had so many different insulin changes over my diagnosis.
Sure.
So I've never actually had the pump. A lot of people dream of having the pump because now, obviously, you can loop the pump to work with your CGM.
Right.
So obviously, if your blood sugar drops, the insulin will stop giving you insulin until it reaches a certain point. Then it gives you back insulin again, which is phenomenal, really. That'll stop so much happening. And I think that's going to be the future for diabetes. I can say 10, 20 years, the pump being more rolled out and the pens being phased out gradually. because people are getting way better control and management through CGMs like the Dexcom, the Libra, and also the insulin pumps as well. Massive changes from when I was diagnosed in the 90s compared to now. And a lot of people would say it's easier now being diagnosed than where it was years ago,
Yes, for sure.
because there's a lot more data you can see now, where before you were chasing numbers all the time. You're not chasing numbers all the time. You can get into a phase of chasing numbers if you're always looking at like the Dexcom 24/7 or you're scanning the Libra. But if
I
you
was totally guilty of that in the beginning. As soon as he got it, every single minute I was checking the phone when he was at school. I'm like, what's his number? So it's addicting to look at all the time because you want to make sure he's doing okay. But it gives such peace of mind for me as the mom, knowing that when he's not with me, I can look at it, I can see where he is. So from a parent perspective, it's awesome to be able to have that.
I'm also going to touch now on the diagnosis story.
So it was really scary. So I was going for like a yearly checkup to see if I grown and to see if I just to see if I grown and stuff. And when we were waiting for the news, we received the wrong news. We received that we had to go to the ER straight away. She explained to me what type 1 diabetes was, and I didn't even know what it was. And that day was really scary, especially because of all of the things going on. And I didn't know. I thought like it would be, for example, like a cold, but it's a dangerous cold. And it'll eventually go away. But it's sticking with me for my whole entire life. And now this is just what I have to be doing. And we went to the ER, and I had to stay in the ER for about 4 days. It was really scary.
Yeah, we had no idea what was going on. I wasn't with him at the time. So his dad had taken him to the pediatrician for that wellness visit. And, I got this call where, you just pick up the phone and you can hear on the other end the person's tone of voice and just the fear in the voice. And his dad was just so scared. None of us knew what type 1 was. I've been in the medical device and pharmaceutical sales business for years, and I've never even touched upon it. So I was about 2 hours away at the time for work. So the pediatrician told me he was about 12 hours away from complete DKA, being in an induced coma in ICU. I mean, it was super scary. But luckily, because of that visit that day, they caught it. I'm glad his pediatrician was looking out so much from the blood test and the urine and noticed that and immediately sent him to the ER. So, but it was a lot of learning for sure. It's a huge learning curve.
Well, that's the thing with type 1 as well. There's lots of happens all over where things can get misdiagnosed as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can catch it a bit later, and then traumatic events can happen with diabetes, ketone acidosis, and all that kind of stuff. And it is scary, but also, as well as being type 1, a lot of people think about more type 2. There's more stuff widely more available than type 2 compared to type 1, and there's misconceptions about there. So many different things that people now are getting diagnosed with type 1 in the 40s, and that's something that I touched on before with Ricky saying it's called juvenile diabetes, but these adults getting diagnosed with type 1 and these kids getting diagnosed with type 2. It's just kind of like mutated, and our bodies have changed and advanced more to the changes of the environment. Because I don't know, is there any diabetes background within the family or anything like that?
No, none for us. Zero.
Because that's more, actually, that is one of the biggest things. There was no diabetes in my family. And a lot of people say it's in the family, it can do. And that's something else that people worry about, especially females, and all that kind of stuff with different things. And it's one of them things really, but I think what Zach's doing is phenomenal. He's doing great things, his stories, his reviews on them bars you reviewed yesterday, them energy bars. I actually messaged the company because they look so good.
They're so good.
Especially the birthday cake one. I was like, I need these.
Yeah, the energy bites, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they're so good. And one of Zach's biggest inspirations, Chris Rudin, is a co-founder and owner of the company. And when we found out that it was his product, he wanted to try it even extra just to help support him, but just to see what it was like. And you loved them. I mean, that was legitimate. When he was doing the review, he was trying them for the first time and really that was an honest review. So if you wouldn't have liked it, I'm sure you would have said.
And the effects of diabetes. So hypoglycemias. What's that like when you go hypo? Is there any warning signs when you go hypo?
Yeah, when you get low, you definitely know, right? What do you think your signs are?
When I go low, I usually get shaky. Sometimes I get a headache. Sometimes my muscles tend to feel weak. Sometimes I even get like thirsty, which is a rare one for me.
But it is good, and it makes me happy that he can tell the signs, because I've heard some people can't necessarily feel when a low or high is coming on. And to me, the low is scarier than a high, just because it can happen so much faster, and it's a much more imminent danger than the high. And so the fact that he knows, and without even looking at his Dexcom, you can say something's not right, I'm feeling low, and then we'll look and he's right. And so it's great that you're able to he's really able to tap into how he's feeling and share that and let school know, the nurses, the teachers, myself, everyone around him. So he's done a really good job about that.
And also when you go hypo, what are the signs to look out for?
When you're high, are they different at all for you?
So when I'm high, usually I get thirsty, I get a headache. It's about the same things, but I don't get thirsty.
But can you tell, when you're feeling, if they feel similar, can you tell if those symptoms sound similar, that you're either low or high?
Yes, I can tell the difference, but I can't be high and then I am high. It's just that usually it takes a while for my body to be like, hey, you're high, you need to check your Dexcom or prick your finger or something like that.
And obviously, as well as that, have you ever had any insulin changes from the pen to the pump since being diagnosed?
Yes, when we changed my pump, I loved the pump so much more because I wasn't repeatedly getting injections. I'm high, I'm going to take an injection. 1 hour later, I'm high, I'm going to take another injection. Plus that you have to have at least one injection every day for the sleep, so you don't get high while you're sleeping. So when I got the pump, the first day I had the pump, I asked my mom if we had to still take the insulin.
The nighttime shot?
The nighttime.
And that was a big...
Nope.
And
I guess that was a relief to yourself, Zach.
It's a complete relief to him and to me as his mom, having to poke him all the time. I hated giving him shots. So, but I feel like it's better. I mean, he's been diagnosed now, let's think, it's just about 7 months. And so he's been on the pump for right around 2 months, because insurance here took a long time. They want to see that he's being compliant with the pen and his Dexcom and doing everything else right. So it took a while. When we switched to the pump, it was a little intimidating because there's a lot of parts to it. And when you put it on your body, it's a little bit of a process, but now we've got it, bada bing, bada boom, got it down really nice and easy. We just did one right before the show right now. But I think it's been great for him because no matter what he's eating, before with the pen, as you know, you have to still give yourself the injection. And here he can just type it in. It does the calculation for him. We try and double check in our head if the correction's correct or the numbers are right, but it does all the math and it's able to do it without him poking himself all day, every day. So it makes it easier for both of us, for sure.
And you've already answered that. You prefer the pump more than the pens, 100%.
For me, what about for you? You're the one who
Yes.
has it.
I'm still using the pen, so I've never had a pump, but I think pump would be life-changing, to be honest, but not at the moment in time because my insulin's working too good for me.
Well, that's what I know. A lot of people that still do stay on their pins, which I get. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, the pump that he's on is the kind that has the tubing. So it's kind of attached to his actual pump on his body. There it is right there. And he also has a Dexcom on him. Now there's another pump that is cordless, tubeless. So you can really put it anywhere, but here he's kind of stuck to certain areas on his body. But I feel like it's just been easier for him. But I know some people, they probably prefer not having anything on their body at all and not having to worry about that. So I'm sure there's pros and cons, but for us, it's definitely pro having the pump. We're pro pump.
Well, like you mentioned there, the Omnipod, that's similar to, got tubing with that one. And obviously when you're having tubing, does that ever cause any issues with like door frames? Getting stuck and pulling it off, stuff like that?
Yes, sometimes it gets caught on things and it almost gets ripped out of my body. One time, it was on something and it got pulled too hard. It came out of my body. It really hurt.
I can imagine.
But the worst part is when he's carrying it around in his hand and not on the pocket or latching, and then he's talking or he leaves it on a desk and he turns to walk away and it goes boom, but he catches it. His reflexes at least are super good to catch it. But it's just my heart every single time it does it. I'm so worried.
My thing is though with the pump, which I think is crazy at the minute, I think I'm on pens, so I kind of remind myself I'm diabetic. Where a pump, I think you can kind of forget it a little bit that you're diabetic because you forget the pump type thing. So I think that's an advantage as well.
Yeah, he can for sure a little bit. And I feel like it's also easier when he's at school. He can just type in the numbers and the nurse can look at it and review it. But I think all around it just makes it easier for everyone.
And what would you give tip and advice to type 1 diabetics and caregivers?
Well, I would think that even though type 1 diabetes may be scary, it's totally okay. It's not like diabetes is like I have diabetes, now I can't play sports, I can't be with my friends. It's none of that. You can do the same things you've been doing before you've been diagnosed with diabetes, but you just have to be careful with your blood sugar.
And that's one thing that you've mentioned there, which I think is absolutely amazing, is a lot of people think when they're type 1, you've got to stop doing what you've done before. And that comes down to obviously nutrition, food. People change so much, but you don't have to because the insulin kind of covers that correctly. And that is kind of one of the misconceptions because as type 1s, we're supposed to be moving, being energetic, but a lot of people don't exercise, don't move, don't play sport because they're worried about the blood sugars dropping and going too low.
Well, I'll tell you, in the beginning, I was scared. I was, it was COVID anyway, so it was difficult to do sports, but he was at the time playing soccer. And when we would start, we've also he's been doing 5Ks and things like that. But right after diagnosis, when we started running again, his blood goes low so fast with cardio. And it was scary for me as a mom. I'm like, I don't know if I want him out there. I kind of want to get used to understanding how it's working and what exercises is doing to his blood. But I mean, like he said, I think it's just kind of also a mental block that you're right. Daniel, I feel like a lot of people think once you have this diagnosis, you just have to sit, you can't do anything. You have to be so overly cautious, but not only is he still doing the same things that he did before, I truly think, Zach, that you are braver and stronger and more courageous than you were before. I mean, from what he's willing and trying to do now. And he has changed his diet a little bit because we found some carbs, pizza is a killer. Is it a killer with you?
Devil food.
Pizza is a killer. That is the absolute worst. But we found like when we're trying to do a little bit more keto for him now, at least the less carbs for him, it's just his body is handling it a little bit better. And it makes me feel better because I hate seeing when he's at school, his numbers go so high or so low based on foods. Because at school, if he has such a short amount of time where they have to give him the insulin and then he has to eat, in and out 20 minutes. And a lot of times, as you know, the insulin takes a little bit longer. So then his numbers are everywhere. So for him, the lower carb has definitely helped a little bit. But on the weekends, I mean, I still let him be a kid. You can, like you said, still eat anything. You can still do anything you want. You just got to watch your blood. That's really it.
And we can still eat cake. We can still eat chocolate. We can still have
I think everything. That's right. Just a little extra insulin in there.
And one bit of advice that you'd give to another type 1 diabetic, maybe newly diagnosed like yourself, to help them on the journey.
So type 1 diabetes is definitely a ride because your blood sugar is basically, you don't know what's going to happen. It might go low here, or might go high there, and you never know what it's going to be. But you just have to watch your blood sugar so you'll be safe.
And I'd say from a caregiver point of view, I mean, in the beginning, it's hard. It's scary for them as the kids. It's scary for us as the parents. I mean, I Googled everything that had to do anything to do with type 1 or diabetes or anything. Instagram, where we met Daniel, it's a great community for people. So I really encourage people to get on and find a community because he's the only type 1 diabetic in his entire elementary school, not just type 1, but diabetic. So it's hard to find people that are local, but the connections that we've made on Instagram, which was his idea to get on because he wanted to do that to help spread awareness from what he was learning and to make it fun and interesting. That's why he tries to do funny videos and everything else to bring a little light to it. But for caregivers, definitely a first stop, I'd say, is find a good community, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But there's also some great apps out there that you can help track in the beginning what they're eating, how it's affecting their blood, which is really good as well. So it's hard, but there's a lot of stuff out there, and we're always available for any other caregivers that want to reach out to get the mom's perspective. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help. And I know Zach loves interacting with the kids and trying to be there for them to help them know that this is, although it is a life sentence, it's completely doable and it's not going to change really anything besides just checking your blood more, right?
Right.
Well, that you mentioned there as well, it is a life sentence, but in a way it's not anymore.
Yeah.
Because we can manage it years ago. Like this year's 100 years since insulin came out, and how much diabetes has transformed over the years. Insulin prices obviously in the US have skyrocketed, and it's really expensive for insulin and medical supplies. But like I'm being an advocate, digital advocate for T1 International with their Insulin for All, which I think is fantastic. They've got loads of different chapters out there trying to put pressure on the big companies to try and reduce the prices because they are through the roof and it is crazy.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have insurance, but even with that, we're still, I mean, the co-pays on some things that I've had to pay for are just crazy. So it's really paining to think about people that don't have insurance or, a different kind of insurance that doesn't cover it all. And people having to withhold medication, which I know is all about the Insulin for All, so that because people are doing that, and unfortunately it can cause very bad things to happen, as we know. So that's one of our goals, is to really help get this word out here, especially for people that even don't know about type 1 diabetes, to let them know the issue that there is going on, to go to our government, to go to our state and our governors and let them know as well.
That is so important as well. And also, what would you say since being diagnosed, the positives? Because there's so many positives about being type 1. We kind of concentrate more on the negatives, but there is positives about being type 1.
So I think a positive is actually, you think I have type 1 diabetes, there's so much negatives, how could there possibly be a positive? But I honestly think since we're trying to be low carb and keto, I'm now eating healthier with type 1 diabetes.
There you go.
Like usually I would just have, food in my normal life and then just eat whatever I want just because it tastes good.
And I'm assuming when you're eating better as well, you're feeling better in yourself. I'm guessing the energy levels are more higher because eating nutritional food is good.
It is good, and it's been fun, and we've been trying it together. I mean, because we never really thought about it too much. I mean, I wanted him to not eat total junk all the time, but now we're really putting thought into it, and it's been fun. And that's where we've been able to make some of his videos that he does and looking at different recipes that are delicious and tasty. You wouldn't even know that they were good for you. So that's been definitely a plus for it. So I think another plus he might say, Daniel, is because of this, he's got now an Apple Watch. He has an iPhone. So he has also, but I don't even have the Apple Watch. So, but I think
Apple Watch. Guessing the Apple Watch is a big thing because that'll probably track his blood sugars, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so when he's in school, the reason I got it for him is so he didn't have to keep taking his phone out at school. So he could just glance at his watch and try and be a little inconspicuous about it. But that's one of the reasons. But I think that, a positive out of this also has been, I mean, this kiddo right here, I'm telling you, has always been, I'm talking about you like you're not here, but he has always just been such a motivational kid and just very encouraging to his friends. And I think this has completely jumped over to type 1 diabetes community. And I think I've been able to see I've been able to watch you, Zach, really grow into his own. And he has this newfound passion for helping others and everything that you do. And he's getting so creative. And even with these videos now, Daniel, for his middle school, he's looking at auditioning and getting into a communications program in middle school. They have like almost majors in middle school, like a junior high here, just because now he has all this experience with editing and being on camera and everything else. So look out for this kid. You never know.
That's what we're saying. Big things are coming.
I think so. I'm proud of him.
He's got the charisma. He's got the style. He's got the mentality. Because that's another thing with type 1 diabetes, especially when they're diagnosed at a young age. They grow up so much faster. And that can be a sad thing at the same time because they've got to grow. They've got to have a stronger mentality. But at the same time, it's a positive. Because as you've said, he's grown stronger. And you can clearly see that on camera as well. So you're definitely doing an amazing job, amazing work. Obviously, follow you also on TikTok as well. So definitely go and check them out on TikTok at Sugar and Swag Life. They post amazing videos, and especially, you mentioned food and the keto pizza. That looks so good as well.
I know, they're good. They're so fun. We have a couple of other dessert stuff coming up soon. So there's lots on there. And we've started like a YouTube channel that's just Sugar and Swag, where we're trying to do a little bit more full videos. So we have one where it's fully him changing his pump to help people, because that was one of the things when I was Googling when he did get his pump. As soon as we got home from the doctors, I'm like, what did we just learn? Or getting home from the hospital. So I was Googling like crazy to find videos. So we really want to create this, place where people feel safe to ask questions, but can also see videos. And from the kids' point of view, to know that this is all him. It's him doing this. 90% of the videos are his idea that he wants to do. He directs them. I'm the little editor that's there. But besides that, just as another resource for people. So we really want to try and do more full videos on YouTube to help people there as well.
And what was school life like since being diagnosed with type 1, since the changes and all that in school?
Well, in school, as she said, the first day of school that we were back, I made this big presentation all about type 1 diabetes. I even did this little slide about what's type 1 diabetes versus type 2 diabetes. And I just taught everyone as much as they need to know. And I told them that it's not really dangerous and there's really nothing to worry about with it. But with school,
Well, being type 1 as well, another thing with type 1 is people say the pancreas has stopped working. But even with type 1, it hasn't stopped working. It's still doing a job. Which even I think everyone who's at one, I'm guilty of saying, "Oh, pancreas is dead." It's not. That is something that it's not actually dead. It still does a lot of work, and so it's not as if it's just not even lazy. It's still working.
It's very sad. It's not being a big help at all.
And obviously, you mentioned school and things changing there, and that was so good that you actually stood up there and did that. I can't imagine me in school doing that. That much it took courage and guts to do that.
Imagine being 10 years old doing that. I cannot. Like, he literally, Daniel made notes and he did like he's saying a little slide presentation in front of the class. And I mean, I was so proud of him. And I think it made the other kids also feel more comfortable too. But I understand with other kids, they might not want to. And it's a very private thing. For Zach, when he was in the hospital, he literally said to me, I did not ask for this, but I want to help other people. So he's held up to his word, obviously, let me tell you. But I understand that some kids might not want to, but hopefully this has opened the conversation. I got calls from parents from the kids there, said, the kids came home and they were asking me questions about it, and it really helped open the conversation up for them as well. So hopefully it was a really good thing that he did that. So
without a doubt for that, because no, I wouldn't been able to do that. I wouldn't even thought about that idea, to be honest. And then obviously I've seen on Instagram that you're going to take it to the next level and you're going to do a diabetes for your school science fair as well.
yes, I have been working on that. And I'm going to submit it to my actual school. So I just thought that this year I could mix stuff up a little.
And what's your idea for that project?
Well, I wanted a science project that was different. So I wanted to use my type 1 diabetes in my science project. So we came up with a couple of ideas. And
thanks to people from Instagram, because we reached out to them asking for ideas, because the one we had was denied. So he came up with another one. What's the one you're going to be doing?
The one I'm going to be doing is okay, I will be doing.
Are you forgetting?
No.
No? Something about your liquids and testing them? The sugar versus non-sugar choice?
Yeah. Okay, so my science project will be getting different drinks and then putting them in glucose in the glucose machine so we can see their sugar and we can compare that to the nutrition facts.
That is super cool. And again, for a 10-year-old to think of that, even though you use the help of Instagram, is huge. It's massive. And it's a game changer because he's educating the community and the schools. Because I know a lot of people in the diabetic in school, they don't talk about it. Just like you said, it's personal. Right. But I think equally it's important that we kind of educate people in school, because that's where it's lacking within the type 1 community is education. A lot of the time it's taught in schools a little bit, but not type 1. Right. A lot of it's more type 2. So the more education we can get in there, it's going to create a positive impact. So what Zach's doing with his science and doing that presentation is already made a massive impact, as well as then doing the videos he's been doing. It's a game changer. So what do you think about your future ambitions? Where do you want to go?
Well, I've actually planned out what I want to be when I grow up. and I want to be a pediatric endocrinologist, which is a diabetes doctor for kids.
That is a big word.
I know, right? I'm so impressed.
I'm just a diabetic specialist.
Right? He's got the whole verbiage down and everything, and he is determined, that's for sure. So,
And I think that's another good thing to have as a plan, because a lot of the doctors, again, aren't type 1 diabetics. So again, coming from someone who's type 1 with another type 1, that could be another game changer and a good field to go down as well, for definite.
His nurse right now that we see mainly, she's a type 1 diabetic also. So it's just been awesome to be able to really talk to someone who knows what you're going through and is empathetic and understands. So I think that's really made a huge impact on him also. But it's just also him, I think, just wanting to carry over what he's learning and keep helping people. So I feel like that, or he's gonna be a motivational speaker or something. Or both. You can do whatever you want,
It can be both, for definite.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. On that all the time.
And also, to wrap it up a little bit, would you like to introduce your 5 songs that you've picked?
Oh, I didn't even have the list in front of me. Hold on. I didn't know that we had even introduced them. Sorry, hold on. Let's look. One moment, please. All right, can you read my handwriting?
Yes. So the first song is called Energy, which is a really actual motivational song, especially if you want to work out. It's a really good song for that, and it has the beats.
That's right.
So the second song is called The Fight Song, which is also kind of motivational because it tells you to keep going and to believe in what you want to believe in. There's Hall of Fame, which is a really cool song. It's actually talking about the Hall of Fame, and it's just talking about stuff like that.
It's also being the best you can be, right?
Right. And there's a song called Wow.
That's by Tiesto. He loves him some EDM, electronic dance music. 10-year-old future DJ, add that to the pediatric endocrinologist. In your doctor's office, you can have a DJ booth, right?
That'll really
never
work
know.
out well. Mhm.
What's the last song you have?
Thunder by Imagine Dragons. It's a really cool song, especially because it has a tune. It has.
He loves any song with
Yeah.
a good beat.
Yeah,
That's what he loves.
that's how to make a long story short.
So definitely listen to those songs. It's a little bit of a variety, but they're all good head bopping songs. That's for sure.
And the last question is, who would you say your inspirations are in the world?
Well, I would say my inspiration is one, the person sitting right next to me,
Thanks, kiddo.
and two would be my dad, because my dad, he always pushes me to try harder, even if I don't want to. For example, I say, I really want to do this, but it's too much work and I always fail. He would basically be like, well, then you have to suit up, you have to try, you have to, if you don't want to do it, you have to make yourself do it. He's always very motivational with me.
That is cool, because that's one thing that I think people don't have the motivation. And you can see that in yourself, Zach, today, doing this interview. The motivation's there, you're shining bright, you're smiling, you're the center of attention, which is cool. That's what you want. So thank you for joining me on this interview today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. We had so much fun.
Thank you.